I'm meeting with Conrad. Hello, Conrad.
Hello.
This is today. Well, today is December 14th, Monday, 2020. Conrad has been with me for, well, actually, you're 21 now. You just was 21 in June, but you were with me when you were at the age of, say, almost 18. I mean, you were with me for about a year. And you found that you were failing in school, and you learned to put in new effort. And so you graduated from high school eventually, and that was your goal. And then now you're going to the university, and you live where now?
Still at home.
I mean, where do you live in? I mean, you live in England. What country?
Yeah, England. The city is called Bristol.
Okay, it's called Bristol. And so that's a called university, but you're doing online classes, and you're living at home.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. What's important is that you're safe from this virus. And so just a little bit background. You were with me for about a year at the age of 18, and then you thought well, that was enough, and you wanted to go back to school, had some time off. And over 2 years went by, you called me again. You want to start again. And so you've been with me since September. So that's September, October, November, December. So you're going on 3 months.
Yeah.
And what do you, so how old are you? You just turned 21?
Yeah.
Okay. And why did you call me back? Why did you want to come back?
Because I was unfulfilled with where I was going, and I want to be free from this obsessive need for self-approval, and really to come to a higher sense of self and a sense of being.
Okay. So you were obsessed with not with coming with self-approval, but you were obsessed with getting approval from outside of you. External, you're so obsessed with external approval.
Yeah.
That's what you meant, yes. And this is one of the goals of this work, is learn what it means to come to self-approval.
Yeah.
But we were talking about envy. I know a couple of weeks ago we were talking about this young lady that you met online, that she lives in Egypt, and you were very fond of her, and you were communicating with her for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours a day, or several times a week, and took a lot of your time. But you were, I would say, obsessed with the idea that you had hoped that she would be your girlfriend. And eventually you saw her with another suitor, another young man, and that devastated you.
Yeah.
All right. And so you felt depressed about that, and or sad about that. And so you felt envy. You felt jealousy. And there's a difference between envy and jealousy. Do you know the difference, Conrad?
Not entirely, to be honest.
Okay. But you know what envy is. What is envy again?
Envy is when you're pained by another's good fortune.
Yes.
And feel delight in.
What's that?
And feel delight in their misfortune.
You delight in this misfortune. So envy is pain, or envy is, let me see, where is the definition of envy? Oh, here we go. Envy is hatred, right away. And this is on page 178 in the ethics. I want to emphasize those who are watching this. We use the ethics, Spinoza's ethics. You can get this online. It's a particular book if you're going to follow us in the future. This is the Elwes translation and the Dover edition. You can just go to my website and go to resources and click on the icon. It'll take you directly to Amazon.com. I don't get any credit for it. You can probably buy a used book for about $1 or $2. Now, But this particular definition, and this is under the definitions on part 3 of the ethics on page 178. Envy is hatred insofar as it induces a man to be pained by another's good fortune and to rejoice in another's evil fortune. So envy is that we're focused on someone else, on some people, on other individuals, and what they're doing. They're doing something that we wish we could. Or they have, we feel that we're pretty powerful individuals. We have a lot of we have a high self-esteem. We think we're special. And then someone comes along and does something better than we do. What we do, we might be, if we're into singing, they're better at that. Or if we're into a hairstylist, they might be a better hairstylist, and so on. But in this case, with you, you had a desire for, say, we'll call her Rana. And Rana, you and her had many conversations, long time. I mean, 6 hours conversations. That's amazing. Okay, and so you had hoped that she was your girl, even though she was online, and you probably would never have physical contact. But just the emotional connection with her online was very exciting. And so now, but jealousy includes envy. Jealousy is when comes about when our desire for Rana, your desire for Rana, is now connected with, say, another suitor. His name is, say, Leo. Now, Leo, you will have hatred towards him. So jealousy includes hatred. Hatred towards both of them. Leo, you will feel envy towards, and towards Rana, you'll feel hatred because she causes you pain, now because she's seen someone else. But you can see how complicated this is. So what I want to do, though, is take this envy, and you talked about your mom, how she has a PhD, she's very accomplished, she's so competent, and she feels, and you see how everything seems so easy for her, and you feel envy towards your mom. Would you describe that envy again?
Yeah. Well, the definition or
How it works in you?
Oh yeah. So when I see her being able to do all these tasks kind of effortlessly, making herself do all this, and when she's like enjoying and having a good time with my dad, it makes me feel pain and then envy because I wish I had that. And
you wish they had that kind of connection.
yeah, and that confidence. And so sometimes I'll try to debate her, and usually I end up losing because she always has the upper hand in the end, and then I feel hatred towards her because it makes me feel less.
Yes, very, very good. Okay, and so what we're getting at here is the importance of seeing oneself. You brought out today in our study, we meet once a week, and you listen to your meeting. We record our meetings, and you listen to it, and I make recommendations to read other materials. And so, as your teacher and your coach and your mentor, working one with me, it is possible to awaken the mind, another part of the mind. Now, what Conrad experiences is what we all are experiencing. A part of our nature. And what is that nature? We have what's called an ego intellect. The ego intellect is absolutely necessary. We all have an ego intelligence. The ego intelligence has to do with how to live with life, how to live in life, and how to exist. Some individuals do very well. If you take on Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or many of these very highly intellectual Einstein. Highly intellectual people did great things and were great business people or scientists. And yet, what was missing in these individuals, they become very self-centered. The ego intelligence at that level is only interested in their selves and their abilities. The ego has no capacity to really love deeply. Yes, some love and some have compassion, but it's oriented towards ego, meaning how do I look? I want to look upon as being, as being highly compassionate and loving man. I want people to regard me highly. So the ego intellect is only interested in survival and existing. And some do very well. Some become very rich, and people, some are very poor. But there's another part of the man's mind and women's mind that is very seldom used and discovered. And this is where Spinoza is so important. Spinoza, a 17th century philosopher, wrote the Ethics. And in that Ethics is a way to awaken the mind. However, you can't do it yourself. And this is where Gurdjieff is so important also. I study Gurdjieff and I recommend Gurdjieff, but only in the areas of psychology, human nature. All the other stuff, the octaves, the Enneagram, the dancing, the music, is irrelevant to what I do. I'm only interested in how to awaken the intelligence. And Gurdjieff says very clearly in the book called In Search of the Miraculous about that man is asleep. But what is asleep specifically? He doesn't look like he's asleep. I call it a semi-conscious state. You know, the scientists or psychologists talk about subconscious. And there's no such thing as a subconscious. There's only you're a conscious state or a sleep state. And most individuals are semi-conscious, meaning they're in a sleep state, meaning they're not aware of this dynamic intelligence, which is different from the ego intelligence. The dynamic intelligence, again, is an awakened state. How do we reach it? That is the work. That is the process. Because this intelligence is like, well, you've experienced this, but you didn't know it. I'll give you an example. When I was a boy at one time, learning my multiplications. And I was endeavoring to understand, I couldn't get it. And eventually, after time and effort, I had an aha experience. They call it the light of the mind. That is it. The awakened state is a light of the mind. And Gurdjieff talks about it on page 141 in Search of the Miraculous. He talks about there's the 4 levels of consciousness. The highest 4th level is enlightenment. And that's what all these Eastern philosophers or teachers or gurus and all these other so-called Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle talk about the consciousness, but they only understand part of it because you must discern the difference between the ego intellect and the true awakened state. And Spinoza talks about this in Proposition 1 on page 130 of the Ethics. He says this: in certain cases, the mind is active, and in certain cases, the mind is passive. Any thoughts about what I'm bringing out? Are you following, Conrad? All right. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, to have an active mind is to be able to come to ideas which really reflect the reality of what's happening in the moment.
Wonderful. That's excellent. Exactly. An idea must reflect something that exists in reality. So the mind requires the mind and body work as one. The mind could not exist without the body, and the body could not exist without the mind. But what is the mind? The mind is a thinking thing. It's not a tangible physical thing. Neuroscientists believe that the brain is the mind, and that's erroneous. And one of the realities that Conrad is experiencing, what about the idea of free will? Are you beginning to comprehend what that means?
Yeah, it's the assumption that we can, by the free volition, do this or that, or react like this or react like that. But
Out
with
of free volition, free choice.
yeah. And with
Oh,
the work, you come to see that when you look at your emotions and desires, you have really no choice but to feel what you feel or desire what you desire.
yes.
It becomes evident when we end up in pain.
When we end up in pain because we're not getting what we want, and we automatically go into, whenever we don't get what we want, we automatically go into pain, hate, and anger. So when you saw your mom with her abilities, you're beginning to awaken to the reality that you are in envy. Because I asked you that earlier. How did you come to envy? And so this is very difficult to come to. It takes time for individuals to begin to see the truth about their nature. Most of us, we're not ready to look at ourselves. There must be some preparation on how to do this. And so now and this is a growth level. This is a great growth step for you, Conrad. You may not see it yet, but I think it's great to be at that level where you can see envy. I said, most people say, oh, well, I don't want to experience envy. The fact that you have no choice. On page 60, this is an example, on page 167 of the Ethics. Again, it follows that men are naturally envious, rejoicing in the shortcoming of their equals and feeling pain at their virtues. For whenever a man conceives his own actions, he is affected with pleasure in proportion as his actions display more perfection. And he conceives them more distinctly. That is, in proportion as he can distinguish them from others and regard them as something special. Everybody wants to feel special and superior. Even if you feel inferior, there is a desire to be superior. Because I was in that place. Most of life I felt inferior. However, I wanted to be the best. And I wasn't. And so I find out I was envious. I remember as a hairstylist, I was envious of this stylist. And by that time I was in my 50s and he was only a young man, probably in his 20s. And he had a clientele, a waiting list of 2 weeks. And I had a clientele, but nothing like him. He probably made 3 times as much money as I did. But what I envied is all the people that went to him. And I saw each one loved and approved of him. It wasn't about the money, but all the affirmation and power I saw he had. And I felt so much envy. And I used to think, I wish he would die. I wish he would disappear. I wish he had an accident and disappear. Why? Because I didn't want to face my envy. I didn't want that pain. And so this is what happens with you, Conrad. You want to compete with your mother, find fault, and that is naturally what we do. So what is the result? How do we handle this? We identify the emotion, envy, look at the definition, and begin to write, what is it that I see? And you saw, what were the things you saw in your mom again?
How I felt
The qualities you saw in her, the things that you envied.
competence, the ability to do things efficiently, confidence, and just a sense of fulfillment, and her connection with my dad and the happiness they feel when they're together.
And also, she has a PhD.
Yeah.
And she has a high level of intellectual powers.
Yeah.
Because whenever you have a debate with her, she wins.
Yeah.
So, but see, the one thing is we don't understand how they got there. We don't see what the process they went through. Your mom must be in her 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had to go through school, degrees, and went through a process. So the idea is, however, to get into the envy and what is our feeling? I see these positive qualities of my mom, and I feel envious because I don't have them. I feel so weak. I feel powerless. I feel helpless. I feel impotence. I feel inferior. I feel inadequate. And I don't know what to do. So the first thing, so we can't stay in that state, so we go into hate and anger. But I suggest that we go back into that painful state and look at it and write it down. I feel inadequate, inferior, powerless, helpless, and indifferent to be with that feeling. Because, and this is where my teacher's book, How to Solve Life's Problems. Would you take a moment and go to chapter 42, page 84, Conrad, and go down. Let's start from the top. One of the basic keys.
One of the basic keys to inner freedom is explained by Spinoza in this way. When we are able to come to a clear idea of any passion, anger, fear, envy, greed, ambition, and so on, the passion ceases. Our problem is, how do we come to a clear idea of any emotion? To accomplish this, we must use a scientific approach with ourselves as the object of study. The first step is to observe ourselves without judgment and without attempting to do anything about what we observe. This is an extremely difficult eye discipline because we have been programmed by imitating other people's values and by our own experiences. As a result, we exist as automatons without any real self-consciousness. Writing what you observe is a highly successful aid in self-observation because this activates the mind. Writing is a form of communication, and communication originated in a more advanced part of the mind. As you practice self-observation, again, I repeat, endeavoring to do so without judgment and without attempting to change your character.
Stop right there. Now, so there are a couple of things I want to emphasize. The idea of inner freedom. Inner freedom is we begin to learn how to see without judgment the specific emotions that we are experiencing, and to understand these emotions, the definitions and the meanings of them. Acknowledge them. This is do it and do without judgment. Begin to see without judgment. Because in judgment, there's a belief of free will. And that's why we have problems. We cannot change if we believe in free will. The idea of writing what you observe is a highly successful aid in self-observation because this activates the mind. And this is what we're talking about, activating the mind, which is normally asleep, to awaken it because it lives in the moment. It lives in the reality of the now. And that's what we want to do. So we're going to end this now. I want to say thank you, Conrad, for participating. And I'll see you next Monday, same time.
Yep.
Do you have anything you want to add before we say goodbye?
I had a question, but
Yeah, what is the question? Go ahead.
What's the when I see myself in my mum and I feel this inadequacy and inferiority compared to her, is that a truth, that sense of inferiority, or is that?
Well, that's a good question. Okay, that's how we feel. Yeah. All right, and to see the truth of how we feel, yes. But and I'm glad you bring this up because the solution or what is you are challenged with is learning to put in effort. To learn to put in effort in whatever you are doing, because when you're looking outside yourself, it means you're not putting in effort. When I learned that my envy, my hatred towards this other hairstylist, John, was because I didn't understand the effort or where he is mentally, how he does what he does. So you don't understand how your mom got there. And that's why I suggest that you talk to her, take a notebook, paper and pen and paper, and ask her questions. How did you decide to get the career that you have? What was the process? See, we are live in our own imagination how life is. And we only see very little superficially through our senses. What we want to do, the work enables to do, is to go deeper beyond the surface and begin to see that my pain is because I haven't learned to put in more effort in pursuing a career or pursuing a direction in my life. Because you're only 21. It's going to take time to find your purpose. And so you have a purpose in this work, which very few people want to do and work with me directly. Very difficult to do. This takes a lot of courage. And to the idea to awaken takes a lot of courage. And to be with someone like me, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, is very challenging. So that's in you. However, you must learn how to apply your mind in the school you're going to and whatever you do, even if you're playing the piano, to focus on your effort. To learn, so for instance, if you have a particular area that if you're floundering in college, you want to put in the effort to find something that you can earn a living from. It's not to make you happy. Some people are looking for something to make them happy. I don't think, you ask your mother, did you go to ethics? Did you got your PhD in ethics because it's going to make you happy? No, she did it because it was a field that there was an interest, and she had a capacity to do it. And it led her to other areas like languages. So you don't know what you can do, really. But once you put in effort, even in the smallest things, when you even say cook for yourself, clean the dishes, put in great effort. Sweep the floor, clean your room, put in great effort. And when you listen to someone and listen to your meeting, put in great effort. Every effort that you put in adds to strengthen your mind, strengthen the understanding. So the effort to awaken. So this, what you're feeling, is only temporary, but you decide how long you want to live there. If you don't put in effort, you'll stay there. If you learn how to put in new effort, just like when you were with me, say several years ago, when you were floundering in school and failing, working with me, you learned to put in new effort. That's what I'm talking about. And you were able to get some good grades after that. This work requires great effort. Effort to be in a meeting, listen to a meeting, and review the meetings and take notes, and read and study Spinoza and Gurdjieff and my teacher's book. All right, any other questions?
No, that was it.
Okay, good job, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Lewis.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.